What if the sugar sitting in your kitchen was once considered more valuable than gold, helped build powerful empires, and even became responsible for a deadly disaster? Sugar seems ordinary, but behind every crystal is a story of discovery, power, and strange human choices. From golden crystals to dark syrups, here's every type of sugar explained. White sugar. For most people today, sugar is just something poured from a bag. But there was a time when a small amount of it could represent wealth and power. Ancient civilizations first discovered sweetness inside sugarcane, a giant tropical grass that people originally chewed for its juice. Thousands of years later, people in India learned how to boil that juice into crystals, creating a sweetener that could survive long journeys. When Alexander the Great's soldiers encountered it, they described it as honey without bees. Europe eventually became obsessed with sugar, but it was once so expensive that wealthy families stored it in locked cabinets and used it to impress guests. The problem was that making sugar cheap required massive plantations built on enslaved labor. Today, white sugar is almost pure sucrose. The refining process removes the molasses and other compounds, leaving behind a clean, neutral sweetness. Humanity spent centuries trying to make sugar cheaper, only to spend the next century trying to avoid eating too much of it. Brown sugar. The strange thing about brown sugar is that the part removed to make white sugar is exactly what people now want back. Before modern refining, most sugar naturally had a darker color because it still contained molasses. Today, much of the brown sugar in stores is simply white sugar mixed with controlled amounts of molasses. In the early 1900s, companies pushed white sugar as cleaner and more modern, while making traditional brown sugar seem old-fashioned. The irony is that molasses is what gives brown sugar its deeper flavor and softer texture. Because molasses attracts moisture, brown sugar keeps cookies chewy and adds caramel-like notes to desserts. It turns out the impurity was actually the best part: raw sugar. For something called raw sugar, it is surprisingly not raw. These golden crystals sit between brown sugar and white sugar. Varieties like turbinado, demerara, and muscovado go through less refining, allowing some natural molasses to remain. Long ago, this was simply the sugar producers could make before advanced refining technology existed. The darker color and larger crystals were signs of an unfinished product. Today, those same features are considered premium. The crunchy texture makes it popular on baked goods, and the extra molasses gives it a richer flavor. Food has a strange habit of turning yesterday's limitation into today's luxury. Honey. Deep inside ancient Egyptian tombs, archaeologists discovered jars of honey that should have spoiled thousands of years earlier. Instead, they were still perfectly edible. Honey has fascinated humans since the earliest civilizations. Ancient Egyptians valued it so highly that they placed jars of it in tombs, while early cave paintings show people risking dangerous climbs to reach wild bee colonies. Honey survives because bees accidentally create one of nature's best preservation systems. They remove most of the water, make it acidic, and add enzymes that produce tiny amounts of hydrogen peroxide. Bacteria simply do not like living there. Maple syrup. Every spring, forests across North America briefly become sugar factories. For centuries, indigenous peoples collected sap from maple trees during the short period between winter and spring. The clear liquid that comes from the tree is barely sweet, containing only a small amount of sugar. To create syrup, that sap must be boiled down until most of the water disappears. It takes around 40 liters of sap to make just 1 liter of maple syrup. The flavor is created by heat, which produces the caramel-like compounds people recognize. Canada produces most of the world's supply and even keeps a strategic reserve. Apparently, humanity decided that emergency maple syrup storage was a reasonable national priority. Agave syrup. Long before agave became a trendy sweetener, it was one of the most useful plants in Mexico. Indigenous communities used agave fibers for clothing and rope, its thorns as tools, and its sap for traditional drinks. Modern agave syrup comes from the plant's core, where the extracted juice is processed into a sweet liquid. Its popularity grew because it dissolves easily and tastes mild, making it useful in drinks and recipes. It is also sweeter than regular sugar, so smaller amounts can be used. The same plant, once used for survival, eventually became a health food trend. Coconut sugar. The name makes it sound like it comes from coconuts, but coconut sugar actually comes from something much stranger: the sap of coconut flowers. Farmers climb tall palm trees, collect the sweet liquid from flower buds, and slowly boil it down into golden crystals. This traditional process is still common throughout Southeast Asia. Because it is minimally processed, coconut sugar keeps small amounts of minerals and has a rich caramel flavor. The interesting part is that the tree keeps producing coconuts even after giving up its sweet sap. It is basically a tree running two businesses at once. Corn syrup. Few ingredients have had such a dramatic journey from ordinary kitchen product to one of the most debated names in food. Corn syrup begins as cornstarch, which factories break down into smaller sugar molecules. Its special ability is preventing sugar crystals from forming, which keeps candy smooth, caramel soft, and sauces glossy. In the 1970s, a modified version called high fructose corn syrup became much cheaper than cane sugar and quickly spread through soft drinks and processed foods. As rates of obesity and diabetes climbed, many people pointed to it as the main culprit. Scientists, however, argue the bigger problem is consuming too much added sugar overall, regardless of the source. Somehow, a humble corn kernel became one of the most argued over ingredients in modern food. Molasses. Sometimes the most interesting part of sugar is what gets left behind. When sugar cane is processed, the white crystals are removed, leaving behind a thick, dark syrup called molasses. The more it is processed, the darker and stronger the flavor becomes. For centuries, molasses played a major role in trade and was used to make rum. But its strangest moment came in 1919 when a giant storage tank in Boston burst, sending a wave of molasses through the streets. The disaster killed 21 people and changed building safety laws. Date sugar. Some sweeteners are made by removing everything from a plant. Date sugar does the opposite. Instead of extracting sugar, producers simply dry whole dates and grind them into powder. This keeps the fruit's fiber, minerals, and natural flavor. Dates have been a survival food across the Middle East and North Africa for thousands of years because they are nutritious and store well. The result tastes like caramel mixed with dried fruit. The only problem is that it does not dissolve smoothly, so your coffee may come with a little extra texture. Malt syrup. For thousands of years, barley has had two very different careers, making beer and making sweeteners. Malt syrup comes from sprouted barley grains. During sprouting, enzymes break down starch into maltose, creating a dark syrup with a toasted, earthy flavor. It became especially important in baking, where it helps create the chewy texture and deep color of traditional bagels. The same ingredient responsible for a cold drink at a brewery is also responsible for a classic breakfast food. Barley has been multitasking long before humans invented the word. Jaggery. Long before refined white sugar dominated kitchens, people were making sweetness the old-fashioned way. Jaggery is produced by boiling sugarcane juice or palm sap until it becomes a solid block. Unlike refined sugar, much of the original flavor remains. In India, where it is known as gur, jaggery is part of festivals, traditional medicine, and everyday cooking. Its taste is deeper than ordinary sugar, with notes of caramel, smoke, and earth. The process has changed very little over thousands of years. Sometimes the oldest methods survive because they never needed much improvement. For something that disappears in seconds, sugar has left a surprisingly long trail behind it. It has been a luxury, a necessity, a tradition, and a controversy. Some sugars were created by nature, some by science, and some by centuries of human obsession with making everything a little sweeter.